Okay, it's after Thanksgiving, cruising into Christmas. It's the week after Thanksgiving, actually, and I've got some parts painted all the way to getting ready for top coat. And I learned quite a few things about painting that I thought I'd pass on that kind of relate to the paint booth. So let's get started. One of the first things here is this paint mixer. We've featured it in another video. It's worth its weight in gold. It does really a great job, and that's one less step that I can do, or I have to do, and have to worry about. Going on to my little bench here, got all sorts of stuff. It looks pretty cluttered, which in effect it is, but it's really organized nicely. It works well for me. I've got the gun. This is kind of an aftermath video because I painted a lot of parts last night. I got the gun here, the body, and I have all the little parts that have been cleaned. They're ready to reassemble. I always have the part cleaners, or the brushes that I have that I need outside of the case of all these little different things that I bought for different. That's kind of like a one size fits all, but I just got the ones that fit my gun right here, and I leave them out. Have the tools I need to disassemble the gun, and I clean everything out, and it's all nice and good. One thing that's really nice, or another thing too, I have a little soft blow hammer for sealing up cans. I don't whack it real hard to make sure that all the cans are just hammered tight. My little can opener here from Superflight. One thing that's been really nice is I bought this little condiment squeeze bottle, and I got lacquer thinner in here. It's really nice to be able to pour into the paint gun in the top if I'm doing some rinsing, or just put a little splash on a piece of cloth. One happy coincidence is I've got these little mixing cups here that I use. I go ahead and fill this up full of lacquer thinner before I even start mixing the paint. And when I mix the paint, I've got these really nice graduated cups, one-way cups, 32-ounce cups. Put that in there. It's got the ratios on the side. And then when I'm testing the Zon flow rate with my little number 2 Zon cup, I've got my little cheapo stopwatch here. Once I'm done, I'll wipe it out, and then I'll take and I'll dip it into this fluid, the lacquer thinner, and let it set. Of course, it turns a milky white, but overnight, kind of a happy deal, once I got the Zon cup out, it settles out, and all the little particles settle out and leads to relatively clean lacquer thinner. So overnight, of course, I put the little cups on the top so it doesn't evaporate. And what I'll do after that is I'll decant the lacquer thinner for a second use into this cup system here, a little funnel. Put that in there, and I'll use that to spray out the gun before I do the disassembly, and it helps with the cleanup process quite a bit. One thing that I was really concerned about when I first started was like, okay, well, how much paint do I mix? Stuff's expensive. If I mix up too much, then what am I going to do? I can put it in the freezer overnight, but then I've got to do something with it the next day. Instructions that I have for Superflight say that it's good to put in the freezer any extra for a day, but that's about it. After that, it's no mas. So what I did was I started maintaining a log, just real simple log, about how much I put in, how much I mixed up, the Zon rate, how much reducer I had to have, and how much coverage I got of it. That was the main thing, figuring out, okay, how many square feet can I do with that particular amount of paint. So that was a learning experience, but once it got through a couple of times, it wasn't that bad. I had a real good guess of how much I needed to do. Like, for instance, the first time out, I only got 1 1/2 aileron painted, and also just the edges of the rudder. So then I went ahead and did the rest of the parts, and made logs of all those. And that helped out quite a bit. It gives me a really good idea about how much paint I need. I have my D-cup system here that I have. They're throwaways. These are the 24-ounce. Got the lids here. Got the 32-ounce down here. So let's go on to here. I'll take one of these rags here with me, and I'll show you what that's all about. Let's go on to the paint booth and I'll show you the things going on out there. Okay, we're back in the paint booth and I'll show you the improvements I've done since the last video I had, since I've actually had some success with painting. This is aftermath. This is what's going on here. Quite a bit going on. If you see all the hoses on the floor, it's just a bunch of spaghetti. I make sure before I start painting that all these things have been cleaned and they're put nice in order. The air hose isn't all knotted up. The air supply from my breather apparatus isn't all knotted up. The extension cords aren't all knotted up, but then as you see, as you move around, move the things around, move the lights around, things really get to be pretty tangled. But that's okay, part of the process. Just has to always be aware. So let's start at the back of the paint booth. The filters last one session, that's about it. If you notice the back of each filter, the new filter here has got a kind of a hard scrim on the back. It fills up with paint. So what I can do is I can get two uses out of one of these filters. I'll take that scrim after it fills up with paint and I'll peel it off, and then it leaves me a fresh surface of filter area. And that's what I've done with this one. This one here is going to have to be replaced because this was from last night. So I've got got a new filter here I'm going to put on here, but I get two uses out of one filter, so that's nice. One thing I had to do is figure out how to hang parts. So I figured, okay, well, I got to get something here. And I had some electrical conduit outside, some 1-inch electrical conduit. I thought I'd go ahead and use that and hang some pipes so I can hang some parts. And it worked out real well. But we'll go into some details here in a second, but just to show how they're mounted is that I have a conduit clamp here to this 2x2, and then this flattened clamp here as well, and then I got a 16-penny nail that basically acts like a just a locking pin to keep it. It won't twist and it won't fall out, and that conduit won't slide one way or the other out of that clamp. You can see there's not much purchase on that. I made them removable for the sole reason is because these uprights have to be removed for the big parts to go in and out of the paint booth. And that was the easiest and simplest thing I could do, cheap. I had all the stuff. All I needed was a drill to drill some holes, and that's it. So I hung all the parts, and I thought, well, shoot, you know, I'm hanging parts, and it's just the cross beams, and not enough. And I thought, well, I've got two more pieces of conduit. I'll just go ahead and put another couple pieces up here. And now I made a grid out of electrical conduit. It doesn't reach all the way to the very end, but I can grab some more conduit at my Home Depot Aerospace Supply Center and go ahead and add some if I need to, which I'll probably will if I'm spraying a bunch of small parts. The big thing is about painting that I noticed, especially when I was doing my first coats of primer, was I was getting not a bunch, but I was getting dust into the paint. And I was thinking, well, shoot, if I keep on doing that, my top coat's not going to look very good if every time I paint I get dust. And I thought, man, there's got to be a reason I'm getting all that dust. I'm thinking, well, you know, I clean everything. I clean the floor before I start. I clean the parts. Got to be something else going on. Well, Alaska, in the wintertime, anytime, I guess, when you have an Arctic climate, it's very dry. It's cold and dry. So static electricity is a real problem up here, or can be. And I recognized that when I was doing the wet sanding, when I was drying the parts with a towel. Sometimes when the part was really dry, the hair on my arm would stand up and attract itself to the part. I'm thinking, okay, well, there's got to be some static issues here somewhere. This booth is not going to be completely dust-free. It can't be. I mean, there's no way I can clean it that clean to be no dust, although the filters do a really good job. So I thought there's got to be some way to dissipate the static electricity in each part. So what I did was I hang the parts with steel wire anyway. So I thought, okay, well, they're connected to the conduit. How can I ground that conduit to the electrical system? So I dug in my scrap electrical wire box and got some zip cord that I unzipped, and I used some clamps or some terminal ends on that, and I went ahead and just grounded each individual clamp end on these conduits, and then I tied it all together and put it here into a plug that I had cut off some other piece of equipment that didn't work. And I don't have it connected, of course, to the neutral or the hot, but I do have it connected here to the ground. So I plugged that in, and that's supposedly going to the shop ground. So I got my multimeter out, got one probe and stuck it in the ground end of this extension cord, got the other probe and touched it to the part, the steel parts, the steel of the part that I got here, and I got a connection. In other words, I had a grounding path from the parts all the way to the shop ground. Happy day. So the last two goes, I sprayed, and no dust. These 4 parts that I have, they'll just require just a little touch up here and there. Not really sure where, to be honest with you, but they're really nice. There's no dust on them. I'm really super stoked about that. It turned out real well. I think part of the deal also is cleaning the parts. So how did I clean the parts? I'll go over here and take a look at my stuff that I got going on here. I got some auto body wipes that I have here. And what I'll do is I'll take one of the auto body wipes and then get some glass cleaner, and I'll clean all the parts with Windex, one side to the other, turning the cloth, and as soon as it gets a little bit dirty on one side, I'll turn it to the other and then keep on going until I run out, and then I'll get another one and keep on going until the parts are clean. One other thing, I brought this towel from over by the paint mixing station, and what I'll do is with this towel, even though it's just got some dust and a little bit of dirt on there, I'll save it like the rest of these, and I'll use them again over there in the paint station because they're really durable towels. And if I don't use them all there, I'll keep them around the shop because they just have a little bit of dust on them. I can use them for cleaning up anything oily or anything like that. Next, what I'll do is I'll repeat the process with some alcohol. I've got this stuff here. It's the Super Wash from Superflight. It's just isopropanol is all it is. And I use it in a little squirt bottle, and I'll go ahead and I'll spray down the parts, get fresh wipes of course, and then wipe them all down to take any oils that came off any fingerprints in the past. Of course, when I'm doing this, you know, I don't have gloves on, but I'm doing all these cleaning actions. I do have the nitrile gloves on, and I'm cleaning all the parts with the gloves. And then last but not least, I'll get a tack rag. I've got a lot of these here. They're these type of tack rags, said especially made for urethane paints, which is good. I'll unfold it the whole way, as was recommended by another paint video, and let it just untack just for a tiny bit, and then I'll use the tack rag and then just gently wipe each part all the way. Now before I start painting, one last step I'll do is I'll come in here with my suit on, and then I'll grab this little air gun, and it's got a real nice hair trigger on it. I can really adjust the flow rate of this, and I'll just very lightly spray down each part just with a little bit of compressed air, just in case anything settled on there, it goes away. Well, the results speak for themselves. I'm really happy about not having the dust particles on, so I can go ahead with confidence now, at least go ahead and start spraying with top coat and to see what that looks like, finished parts. Next thing is lighting. These lights I got from Amazon. They're 10,000 lumens each, LEDs, 5,000 each individual light. And they were on the horizontal before. I know you probably saw that in the video, and they weren't working out very well for me. I said, man, if it could only make it vertical, that would be better. So I did. What I did was I just go ahead, and they have real fancy little quick clips here. I unclipped it, got some zip ties, and zip tied it to the tripod. And you can see the result when I turn this on, and of course have the other light source on the other side competing from both sides, I can paint the part and I have a really good reflection to see how wet my passes are going as I'm painting. It really helps a tremendous amount. Now there are some places also that even with this light it won't do it. I've got this portable light that I got from a friend of mine, Rob Taylor. He used this for painting his bear hawk. And it's a cordless light, and I can use that in a pinch to get through some areas that aren't so accessible with the tripod lights. Last but not least, whenever I'm painting these parts, anytime they're of course swinging free on their respective wires, and as I'm going with the gun, even though it's an HVLP, they'll sit there and they'll rock back and forth. So I put little bits of wire on here, kind of like a tag line, just to hold the part in place while I'm spraying, just to keep it from swaying back and forth. And that really helps keep the part or keep the paint paths consistent, not varying in distance away from the nozzle of the spray gun. You can see here also I got a little tag line. Those are attached, those on the elevators were attached to where the trim tabs go. This is where the horizontal stab strut goes, and I've got the tag line attached here. A couple other things that make life easier. Show you here is these things here, really nice. They're wireless devices. One is to turn on my paint booth fan. Here it's on, turns it off, and then this one here is for my breathable air. Sounds like a vacuum cleaner. It's over on the other side of the partition, and that works really nice too. I can go ahead and control the fans from in there. One last thing I got going on here, going in here to the inner sanctum where my air compressor is. I got this air dryer at an auction. Actually, it's just a cash sale. It's 10 bucks, I think, from the Air Force. It's from Zex. It works great, no problems at all. I have the front grill off of it because they did have an automatic water system that drained this water, but that part didn't work. So I went ahead and just put a valve on it and drain it like every other day, and I get maybe a tablespoon or two of water out of here. Turn it on. It's just basically a refrigerator. Refrigerates the air. I have it hooked up on a bypass system when I'm using normal shop air. I don't use the air dryer, but when I'm painting I do. So the first removal of air or any residual moisture in the compressed air is this. Then I have this coalescing filter here, which removes any more water or oil. And then I've got the regulator set, and I've got the regulator set right at around 40 psi. Normally when I'm running the shop air, I've got it up to about 100 psi and have that running the shop air. But for whatever reason, even though there's a regulator on the paint gun, if I have it left at 90 psi, every time that I open the valve on the gun or press the trigger, it seems to be just a little bit more of a shot of air than I like. So I turned the regular shop air pressure down, and that seems to work real well. And one other thing I'm learning, of course, just for the EA, building your own airplane, you learn a lot, is this little gizzy right here. Between the volume adjustment here on the trigger, the fan, and this little pressure gauge makes all the difference in the world. I really encourage you to practice if you want. I've got it dialed in now to where I'm really comfortable spraying. I had this set about 11 psi. And then this, of course, the flow rate depends on what I'm painting and also the fan. And then here's my last chance filter for any other contaminants that may go. So that's about it. I thought I'd pass that on. It's been a real experience. Prep work is 90%, the painting 10%. It's fun seeing it go together real tedious. It's hard to maintain a lot of real enthusiasm for the project when you're just doing the slog work of just sanding and fussing and doing all that. But it's one foot in front of the other. Keep your head down, keep on going. So eventually the aircraft will be painted. Thanks for watching.